I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about this, and this one's been coming up a little bit, and I'm noticing it, and I was trying to put my finger on it, and I just couldn't figure it out, but I think I got it kind of figured out. Of course, I'd have to do a lot more assessments, but I've spoken about this before, that we've got to rise on, well, everybody calls narcissism, but I'm thinking it's histrionic, especially when it comes to females, and a lot of histrionic can be like, so misdiagnosed, especially if you don't have an actual psychiatrist doing it. Like I've noticed a lot of MDs and registered nurses are doing a lot of DSM diagnostics, and they're not even fitting criteria. Like somebody can be hyperactive, but that falls under like 12 different diagnostics. So you need to really break it down and not just throw it off as, oh, well, you got ADHD or something. But I've been noticing a lot more characteristics that are fitting a profile of histrionic. Like I said, I've spoken that before. But that also could be comorbid with something else, but it also could be presented as like borderline or bipolar with some manic, because most histrionics are not depressed as like super. I mean, there are some characteristics, but I guess the easiest way to attribute what a histrionic would really be, because they're quite manipulative, but they're major attention seekers. So if we go back to attachment style, you can see that they had a very insecure attachment style, and it's probably not a disorganized. It was probably more a dismissive, avoidant personality type, and they would only re-engage, like, to get certain needs met, and it was artificial needs. So they're probably taught more of, we avoid until we get our artificial needs to get done. And so here's some of them. So let me just give you there's 10 things that I look at, and it doesn't solidify my diagnostics, but they're persistently seeking attentions of others. Now that doesn't mean that just because somebody attention seeker is that way, because there's several different ones, but this one's a different type of attention. They will demean other people around them. They will act out of character or to high extremes to get attention. They're very theatrical. So there's another one that goes into it. So the second one would be more theatrics, over insinuating. Sorry, my lights keep turning off. I've got sensors in my office in here. They have very low tolerance for anybody's frustration. Like, they don't care about your problems, like unless it's their frustration. And then if you match them on that same frustration, you're outshining them. So then the theatrics come, and then they'll demand. They could actually get physical at that point. The fourth is highly sensitive to any criticism of their points. You have to be aligned with them. If you are against them, then you automatically, it's almost as if you basically threaten their life. And it can actually exhibit in some physical pain. The fifth one is attracting attention. They do it very seductive. A lot of women will do it as sexual seduction. So it could be kind of presented like that. The sixth one is they could be very provocative. They could... and not really big ones. So if you're thinking that they would sell their children or any of that, they're really not kind of like that. They'd probably be more of like, I'd leave them at home while I go out and party, or leave them in their car while they go out and dress, because any attention to their kid is drawing attention from them, and they wouldn't do that. And the sixth one is rapidly changing their shallow emotions. They're literally superficial when it comes to emotions. They can say the right words, and they can show you empathy through the right words, but you can definitely feel that they're not genuine. Like, they don't exhibit any kind of underlined energetic love or compassion. Then seventh is suggestible. They're overly trusting, and they are easily dissuaded. So this is where they can become quite manipulated if you can convince them that if you had, advertisers do that all the time. You can get this pretty girl if you had this car, and they persuade you. But it's a lot easier to persuade a histrionic that you are somebody if you do this. Like the newest fake tech talk, or, if you had, this newest car, then you would be considered part of our in-group. And this can actually get them in some really big traps. and they can get into some areas where they can be abused or trafficked, drugs, addiction, life-threatening situations. Eighth is they excessively focus on their physical appearance or materialistics, and they are really good at nitpicking other people. So it's almost like they demean other people because they're so interested. Why are you wearing that? Isn't that not the coolest thing to go? You've got to have like coach, and you have to. I mean, they will go so far in debt. They will steal. They will rob. They will manipulate and lie to get that because that's their value. Because it's the newest thing on the street, and isn't the physical appearance so important. They're very, very, very bad when it comes to like their own physical requirements. Like you need nutrients, you need food, and if it shows that they are peaking at any point of not being that ideal model, they will actually take drastic measures to make sure that happens. Starvations, binge and purge, which is a whole nother eating disorder in itself. And then they automatically do sudden change. This is where the borderline kind of things in, or the bipolar, and people so often dismiss it as that. But mood swings can happen with those that are histrionic as well. And it's because their frustration levels are, am I getting the attention? When do I need the attention? And it comes on a cellular level. It doesn't just sit on the surface. These mood swings are cellular, that needs a certain firing that goes on. And personality disorders is usually not something that we medicate because it's an actual coping skill. It's an attachment style that they have to retrain their bodies. Classical conditioning, operant conditioning, Pavlov's dogs, we've talked about that. And this is similar to that. Some of the mood swings can be medicated, but it's a psychological. And so it'd be more of curbing some of the more coping skills that are life-threatening, cutting or extreme seductiveness for STDs. You got to minimize some of the symptoms that could cause a secondary issue. And the last would be more, they feel discomfort when they fail to get any attention. And so this can lead into the whole mood swings, the frustration, the irritation if they're not being recognized as this is something that I find frustrating. And they advocate for things, but they superficially advocate. They advocate to get the attention and get the recognition, but they actually don't have any action to go through it. So I talked about it before, and I've said it before on my Facebook page, but the saddest thing to do, and the saddest person that I've ever come across from, and I've had friends that have been like this. Well, they're not really friends because they can't really invest that much. They're kind of superficial, like I said. But as some acquaintances, because my kids have played with their kids, and I knew from the beginning there was something off. But I didn't get that invested in it because it's my kids' friends, and you know how kids, as they grow apart or they stay together. They call it the single white female. That I call it the single white female. There was a movie in the 80s that was on it, and it can be friends or it can be relationship, but it can take a very dangerous, disastrous turn if the person becomes very, very clingy to you and find that you have some characteristics that they want. They will actually start creating themselves and molding and morphing themselves into you. It's like the classic by 10 octaves of stealing your identity. They steal everything from relationship to everything. So that movie is a great portrayal of what a histrionic at its worst and at its full force could look like. And they'll steal, they put up a whole persona. They can create and sell a whole life. Like their friends, they can look at somebody and they can talk to somebody, and then all of a sudden they will pass that off and sell it to people that they have been best friends for their whole entire life, and it is so far from the truth. There's a lot of seductions like they're in a relationship. I mean, you get some of these that are very like stalkers. You're looking at more of somebody that's kind of a histrionic. To treat one with medication, of course, you have to minimize some of the symptoms, but this can be actually kind of almost on the borderline of, well, it's a cluster C, I think. No, cluster B. It's a cluster B. And it could be quite dangerous if you get involved too much with these. But there's the theatrical types. There's 6 different really types. You have your theatrical, you have your infidel, which is more of a combination between a borderline and a histrionic. So borderlines are those that can flip within a second, but their mood swings aren't so attention attention seeking as an actual neurological. So histrionics switch because they need that move, they need that attachment, they need that attention, and so then they will navigate and shift, and anybody in their way is going to, if they get any attention that they don't, they will do whatever they can to make sure that they deminimize, character assassinate. They are probably one of the top abusers, and most of them are women. So histrionic is more prevalent in females, and so they are the female abusers that you would see, and so often men get abused and they don't want to report, which I get kind of, but I think that they get a bad pass because, you know, they do get a lot of abuse, and people are in society dismissive of, well, can't you be a man, take the hit? Well, they shouldn't be hit at all. But then trying to get away from somebody that's like this, they will stalk you. They'll break in your house and they'll present stuff, and they're really, really convincing when it comes to court. And they can do social media. They will freaking create all sorts of different types of relationships, and social media has done nothing but help them. They've created marriages. They've advocated with no action, but they can actually morph through social media and make it look like it actually is real. It's quite dangerous now. They're disingenuous. They're really just bitter. And you could tell when they're giving out compliments that those compliments are not real at all. And they're the ones that I'd be more scared if they were a little kid around, that they would do something just to diminish that kid's light, I guess. Not killing them or anything, but they definitely would make sure they say passive aggressive statements or make the kids be self-conscious, let them know that they're not quite good enough. And it all comes from their family. And the histrionic can be attributed to an abuser in the family, and often avoidant. And most kids that have avoidant attachment styles are afraid to be engaged with their caregiver because their caregiver usually is an abuser. Either will be verbal, let them know that they're below, but most often it's physical, and it made them feel like they are just not good enough. Most of these histrionics have tried to go through pageants, or they'll create that they're the queen or these pageant people, and they will Photoshop all these documents and make it seem like they are something they're not, and that's exactly what it is. Histrionic will portray themselves as somebody. They will put on a whole fake. They can fake for decades. Relationships, marriages. Most times they're not in long-term relationships, or they are the habitual cheaters. And that's the vivacious ones. Usually they're the most seductive. And as they age, they're not as seductive anymore because people aren't engaged in it, but because they age, they are actually more parent attackers. So they'll start parenting or coach attacking or teacher attacking. Well, they're not doing good enough, and they're attacking another form of maternal. So seductive is the sexual. So when they're still in the ages of being able to seduce the man to trap them or their other partner, they can do it by friends too. Make them seem like this is the coolest thing to do. They will start attacking parents, or their parenting style or their teacher style, and then they'll make them feel like they're an inferior because those two go in the same. And most of the caregivers and the parenting is more directed towards the female, as well. You're an unfit mom, so you shouldn't have never done that. And so probably a lot of you have ran across some of these. So like I said, if you wanted to know more, I'm going to post some things, and I'll post it on my Facebook page, but I'll also do here at the end of the video. At the end, I'll put up the 6 and I'll let it sit there for a bit, and then I'll put up the 10 different types of characteristics you can look for. Now, granted, I'm not diagnosing. Don't use this as a diagnostics, but you could subscribe and like. But this is just an idea, kind of give you what you're looking for, and you don't have to engage in it. The best defense against it, yes, they can be very dangerous if you decide to exit, but slowly exit. Don't give as much attention. They have to go find the attention. That's the way it goes. Fighting with them is not going to work. So they like to fight because it gives them attention, and they're going to do whatever they can to make you look horrible. And they probably have already been working on it. They feel you leaving. And if they feel like there's any disgruntledness or you disagree with them, they were already starting the narrative on the background, presenting to people that you don't. They're really good at keep making sure that you never link to any of their other friends or their relationships. So you probably more than likely would hear about somebody, but you would never link up with them, and you wouldn't even know that they were being and hanging out with other people. But they have already taken a preemptive strike basically against your reputation. They do it to everyone. So every person they talk to, they've already destroyed that person's relationship with everybody else they talk to by saying little things like they're abusers, or they're trash, or, you know, they're a whore, or they cheat, or I've seen them steal, or, you know, they're liars all the time. So they've already fed the seed to everybody else. So nobody else would ever seek out to be in friends with you, especially if you believe rumors. And I never believe rumors. I put it in the side of my head because I look for facts first. Let me see, does your behaviors dictate exactly what they're saying as a rumor? Because if that's the truth, then it's the truth and it's not a rumor. But if it's not, I err of side of caution and saying, okay, well, then maybe they have a personal vendetta, not me. I will never judge a person by somebody else's opinion. Judge a person by your own opinion and facts. All right, so histrionic, I'll show you that. There is a lot. Please do not get a diagnostics like that from somebody that is not trained. This is not a diagnostical tool, but it kind of gets you an idea of some of these characteristics. If you have 5 or 6 of them together, then you're looking probably at somebody that's like this, and it's just better just to walk. I mean, you can't change them. No one can change anybody. They can only change themselves. Okay? All right, peace. Have at.